Put on a Zapp record right now. It speaks for itself.
James Brown, George Clinton, Roger and Zapp, it's all a movement's extension. It's hand for hand.
They are the blueprint of West Coast hip hop. Dr. Dre wanted to be like Roger. DJ Quick wanted to be like Roger.
He was one of the best guitar players I'd ever seen.
When you heard a Roger Troutman beat, it was hood. It was hood.
I've never seen two people no closer, as close as Larry and Roger.
They were brothers, they were friends, like two peas in a pot.
I never thought that I would get that kind of telephone call.
It's like, what were you doing when 9/11 hit? You know exactly where you were.
Here's a guy you love, here's another guy you love. What made this happen?
I dream about Roger every day. And man, there's no answers in my dream. I have no idea, man. I have no idea why. We're gonna replace Roger. We're gonna do what we need to do to keep that legend alive.
I had never seen people work like this before.
Life is for the living, my brothers. Life is for the living, and I mean, the group Zapp is alive. That's for sure.
Uncompromised, unrecognized, unparalleled, unsung. The story of Zapp and Roger.
Everybody put your hands up in the air! Come on!
For 3 decades, Zapp has been moving fans on the dance floor.
You know, bam, let me hit you in the chest with this.
And putting on a show.
It's the bowl of grits theory, you know? When you want something funky, you got to go get something funky.
Those who do know the Zapp band, they know that we were the Zapp band. That's what we do, man.
Back in the day, Zapp ruled the radio with old school funk.
I never heard so much bass on a record before in my life.
The bass and the clap. Boom, 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 boom.
So it's that beat with the drums and the bass is kind of what stands out to make that Ohio funk.
And created some of the most influential sounds in pop music today.
It made all the kids want to dance and have fun, so, you know, we kind of fell in and followed it.
Along the way, Zapp has managed every turn in the road, from bad gigs to bankruptcy to the greatest loss of all, the tragic death of their musical leader, Roger Troutman.
Music was his vehicle to make you forget about whatever troubles you were having.
He was effervescent, he was a superstar. He was an angel of music, man.
But through it all, Zapp has stayed true to their code by giving everything they have to their fans, their family, and their music.
The music that my brothers and I played, it was just us in the garage having fun, trying to make some people dance, trying to make some people have a good time, and just trying to make some girls scream. That's all we was trying to do.
When the Zapp band is on the road, this is how we travel. By bus, and we get ready to go for a little tour right now. We're gonna show y'all some things, so come on, come on.
The 4 brothers who would become the driving force of Zapp, Larry, Lester, Terry, and Roger Troutman, grew up in a family of 10 kids in Hamilton, a small town near Dayton, Ohio.
We're going down deeper, deeper in the hood. 132 Washington, this is the house, this is the crib, you know. Our roots, this is where it all happened.
That's up, Mr. Benson.
Hey, Mr. Benson. Yeah, I see when I rode down the street.
I threw a kiss to him.
Benson. How you doing, Mr. Benson? My father, he worked, and my mother, I think her gig was to have kids, since she had 10 of them, you know?
There was 2 rooms. It was Dad and Mom's room and the kids' room. That's it.
1 bathroom with that many people. We all were poor. And we all were loving, and we didn't know we were poor.
I thought it was like Beverly Hills.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought it was heaven.
Right, I had everything I needed. I had, you know, family, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins.
The Troutmans were always about doing it for themselves. Their father, Rufus Sr., worked at a paper mill and drove a truck. and made sure his kids learned early about the value of hard work.
My dad used to come and bring his truck. He would dump wood, kindling wood right here. Right here. So, you know, we'd be walking home from school playing, you know, laughing and joking with our friends. We get to the top of the hill, we start looking. If it was clear, we could look all the way down, it was straight. But if it was loaded wood, man, we knew we had to work.
That means we got to work.
Hey, man, couldn't go to bed until it was all in.
The thing that was different about us than the other families was that we had a band.
Roger, while barely out of his diapers, showed a passion for music.
Roger was 3 years old, and we was going through the bargain city, and there was all these guitars hanging on the wall. He said, "Dad, I want my present. I want the la-di-da." He was 3 years old. I said, "What is a la-di-da? If you show me what the la-di-da is, I'll buy it for you."
Start picking them notes out, man, and then start playing. And it tripped, really tripped my father and tripped everybody. It just tripped him out.
The first thing we know, when he was 3 years old, he was ready for the stage, but I wouldn't stand for it. I waited till he was about 6.
Amazed by his talent, Roger's father brought his young son to local clubs to show him off.
Roger's father used to bring him to the clubs and just bet money that couldn't nobody in there out playing. And it was the truth. It was the truth.
Watching Roger play, his brothers wanted in.
I wanted to play the guitar. He said, "Well, you know, okay, I'll teach you." But he said, "Well, no, that's really not what you want to do. That's really not what you want to do. You need to, come on, you need to play the drums." And I guess I was 5, maybe.
Whenever they did any kind of talent show when we were younger, they always won. They never came in second place.
With Roger barely in his teens and Lester even younger, they hit the road as Little Roger and his Fabulous Bells, playing blues, rock, and soul at dances and sock hops.
We used to do things called tennis court dances. We go on a tennis court. They set up a little stage out there, and we would play. Probably, I think it's a nickel or something to get in. Play, 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 play.
Yeah.
Go back to the garage, practice, practice, practice. Well, we can't even get back there, man. This is done, man.
Woo,
See, Frank is done, buddy.
This is deep.
He went and had a garage built back of our house with the electricity so they could practice out there with the electric guitar. You didn't have to play it in the house.
But this was the place, man. This is where we are. This is where we hit it. Yeah. This is it. This is it. This is impossible, but this is it. It was a dream, man. It was just like being able to release everything, all of my problems, everything in my drums, and just play and play and play and play and play.
The Troutmans had plenty of role models. Southern Ohio in the 1970s was a hotbed of funk. James Brown and Bootsy Collins recorded in Cincinnati, and Dayton was home to bands like Lakeside, Slave, and the Ohio Players.
And in order for you to make it, you gotta be you gotta start shooting for what they're doing.
By the late 70s, the Troutmans were making a rep for themselves as a band called Roger and the Human Body. Terry, now a teenager, joined on bass. Larry, the oldest brother, played congas and took over the group's management.
He would get the bookings. He was very good at that. He would do that, and he had a bunch of fresh ideas.
Turned the genre music around, and we got that together, and then he took us to another level.
We were good as a local band. We were exceptional as a local band, exceptional. We were tight,
First time I ever saw Roger, instead of just walking onto the stage, he swung on a rope out of the balcony. I said, now wait a minute. That's doing a show. And they were the openers.
The band's reputation for tight shows and hard funk caught the ear of Bootsy Collins, who was playing in Funkadelic with George Clinton.
Bootsy calls us. He said, "Hey, man, we want you guys to come up to the studio in Detroit, and you're gonna meet George. We're gonna talk about it so we can work, so we can make some stuff happen."
So the Troutman brothers packed their gear and headed for Detroit. Their lives would never be the same.
The day that I heard it on the radio, I just went crazy. Stop the car, stop the car, stop the car.
This is the first show that we did at Zapp. Julie's nightclub in Dayton, Ohio, very, very first show. George Clinton came to the show.
Yep. Bootsy.
Bootsy came to the show.
In 1979, the Troutman brothers left Dayton for Detroit and a make-or-break recording session with funk masters Bootsy Collins and George Clinton.
We get to Detroit, go to United Sound Studio. We see George Clinton come, got out of a taxi cab. Unreal.
Clinton and Bootsy helped get the band a deal with Warner Brothers and convinced them to change their name to Zapp, after Terry's childhood nickname. Then they got busy recording their first album.
Studio A.
Oh,
Detroit.
no, sir. That's
Detroit.
right. Detroit.
Studio A. Yeah.
Studio A, Detroit.
United Sound.
United Sound. Studio A. Sly Stone and Roger. And the whole record was done. And Larry and Roger, they just pretty much decided, hey, man, we don't really have a hit on here. You know, Roger was like, okay, you know, let me see what I can do. I think I can handle that.
The band's first single, More Bounce to the Ounce, shot to #2 on the Soul Singles chart in the fall of 1980, and it took over dance floors everywhere.
Little league football, probably on the bike, on the handlebars of a swing. Ride through the neighborhood, holding on like this. And one of the homies riding by on a low ride, banging like boom, 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 boom.
It seemed like they played that record, More Bounce, for like a half hour. And it just kept giving. It just kept giving. It was one of those amazing records.
Drums, which I played, the synthesized bass, which Roger played, the guitar, which Roger played, congas in and out, which Larry played, and the hand claps, which we all got in the room and made, and Roger on the talk box, with a little, that's it.
Like he had a robot with him. We didn't know what that was.
Instead of using my own voice, I'm using the sounds of a keyboard. And the sound of the keyboard comes through this tube.
That sound no one had done anything like that before. Roger did not invent the talk box, but Roger's the person that made the talk box a lead instrument.
I've always tried to find something to give me an edge, like a female screaming.
The little had been around a while, but to make it the centerpiece of your sound was pretty radical. But they made it work totally.
See what I mean, baby.
The next year, Roger made his first solo album, including a cover of I Heard It Through the Grapevine that hit #1 on the R&B charts.
The people call it Many Faces of Roger.
Right. That's right.
And, you know, because he had on the front cover 6 shots, different poses.
Right.
It introduced him, you know, introducing itself to the world.
Now wait a minute.
It also featured a coming out jam called So Rough, So Tough.
So rough, so tough. Oh, yeah, baby. So rough, so tough.
I'm like, man, who is that? What is that? Nobody sounded like Roger back in. Nobody sounded like that, man.
Let me tell you, people. Let me tell you now. Let me tell you, people. They showed up pretty tough.
And it's just when that music came, it was just funky. It was like James Brown to the third power.
Some of the Parliament stuff was more, you know, accompaniment laden. Roger's thing was kind of straight to the point, clean and bright. I mean, it was big. It sounded more like techno.
Suddenly, Zapp was the band of the hour.
We went from playing places that they didn't turn the power on in the place until we got there, and that the roof was leaking when we were in there, to playing coliseums.
While Roger directed the music, Larry handled the business. The two brothers even wrote songs together. To many, they seemed inseparable.
If I had a question for somebody, they would say, you have to ask Roger and Larry. So a lot of times I would refer to them like that. Well, you know, I got to talk to Roger and Larry.
Larry and Roger. What Larry and Roger say? What Larry and Roger say?
So they were together, together about what they were trying to do.
You know, they were a team.
Larry's vision gave Roger all the room he needed to make music. Back in Dayton, he lived in an apartment with an adjoining recording studio.
We built his apartment inside the complex. So, the only way you can get to his apartment was to come through the studio. Roger lived there. He could wake up at whatever time and go down, play, record, do whatever he wanted to do. And we did it all here, everything right here.
He was always working. Now these are in the days of the Jerry curl. And I used to tease Roger because his hair would be so dry, we'd be in there for days at a time not doing anything. I said, man, your hair's so dry, you're gonna suck the activator out of mine.
Roger just took to wanting to master every instrument. And that's what he did. And not just mastering the instrument, but mastering mixing and understanding sound and really studying music theory, which he did also. I mean, he was a student of music, just like Prince was a student of music.
Before I would leave to go home at night, I would stop in and check on him to see if he was okay, and he would be sleeping. He would have a harmonica on his chest and guitar across his torso.
That guy, he lived, ate, drank, and slept music. He was just a beast when it came to that.
He would go into the studio dressed in a double-breasted suit, and by the time he came out 6 days later, he looked like he was on the Jackson 5 album cover. You know, he was just a music guy. He lived and breathed and ate his music.
Larry even hired Big Rob as a driver to protect Roger from himself.
Roger had a history of where he was running into things. He'd be driving down the street, still mixing a record. He done ran into somebody. So you can't have somebody that valuable riding around. So Larry said, man, we gonna stop you from driving and get you somebody to drive you around.
But Roger's quest for perfection paid off on stage, where Zapp really came alive.
His name is Roger, and he wants everybody in the world to think he's crazy, you know what I'm saying?
We rehearsed for hours and for days to fine-tune the outfits and to make the show bigger and better.
These guys were a tight road band. Like, these guys had played for like $300 and really felt that tightness.
Everybody clap your hands, come on!
Roger would always say before the shows, stay in character, keep it fresh and new.
Can I act a fool in here this evening?
Go out there and do what you do. He said, one thing, do not bore my fans.
In cities across America, Zapp's music was the talk of the town. But Zapp was chasing even bigger dreams.
In our city of Dayton, we put more black people in the houses than the city, the county, the state, and the federal government all combined. That happened, that's a fact.
Throughout the 1980s, Zapp showed a Midas touch with one feel-good dance groove after the next.
81, number one. 82, a number one hit. 83, a number one hit.
Every time I hear it, hey, let's get it on, let's get dancing, so let's get the moving. They start bobbing their head and stuff, they start moving to the funk.
I don't even know what you call that music that was from the 80s, but it seemed more happy, seemed more free-spirited.
Zapp, when you heard that, it's just automatic, just fingers twisting and frowning up at the face. Oh man, I can't even explain it, man.
But behind their free-spirited sound and style, Zapp was serious as a heart attack.
What people thought was going on, it just wasn't. Drugs, alcohol, never. No one in the band, no one smoked, no one.
Here's an organization that I don't have to do drugs to fit in. You gotta realize, from a church kid, the choir director at church, you gotta realize what an oasis that is for me.
You know, I can remember Roger saying, hey, man, you see these diamond rings I got on my hand? You see this money? He said, man, you want something just like that, don't you? And I said, yeah, of course. He said, well, let me tell you how you get it, little bro. And I said, well, how you get it? He said, don't ever fool with no dope. Don't ever fool with no alcohol. And you can be just like me.
Zapp elevated their business in other ways. Through Larry's leadership, they started a limousine bus service, and they formed Troutman Enterprises, which built and rehabbed dozens of lower-income homes in the Dayton area, while hiring and training local workers to do the jobs.
Okay, here we go. Houses here.
That whole stretch, all 5 of those.
This was a vision that Larry had for sure, and he wanted to just give back to the community.
Every time we would build in the community, just, I mean, the whole presence, the whole aura of the community goes up a notch.
They could say, I have a Troutman home. And it was pride. It was a lot of pride.
The Troutmans didn't just hire workers to build houses. They also did it themselves.
We start about 4 or 5 in the morning till about 7 or 8.
Take a break, get something to eat, and then meet at practice for 10. And we rehearse from 10 to about 2.
And then, after rehearsal?
Back till about 5 o'clock.
The band, sometimes we would work construction, and I was a construction foreman. And, oh, God, please don't remind me of those days.
I'm the first black female with electrical license in Dayton. The first black female in Ohio with fire code license.
I hung drywall. I threw sod. I ran electric. I ran wires across the top of the house before there was a ceiling. Sure. That's what I had to do if I wanted an allowance.
And Larry said, go on and do it. You can do it. He gave you that. And that's the kind of guy he was.
He steered me and a lot of young black men in the right direction.
Larry, it seemed like his vision was always making these opportunities so that you could, I want to say, live this American dream.
But if Larry remained the visionary of the band, Roger was its beating heart.
His thing was to make people smile, to make people feel good, to uplift your spirit.
He would give you his last dollar out of his pocket if he felt like you needed it. You know what I'm saying? Roger was a good man. He was a good man, silly man. Like to tell jokes and have you laughing, keep everybody laughing, you know.
That's why all his songs is like upbeat and you just feel like they just, you know what I'm saying, just having a good time because that's who he is and that's represented what he was.
For Zapp and Roger, the hits kept coming. Zapp's first 3 albums went gold. Roger also helped spur the career of singer Shirley Murdoch by producing and arranging her first album.
Roger grew me as an artist, and Larry grew me up in the business, on the business side. And I'm still chewing off of, you know, a lot of the nuggets that they planted, you know, in my life.
Working with Shirley, Roger was growing as well. In 1985, he crafted Kings of the Dance Floor. But the musical landscape would soon shift beneath their feet.
The late 80s, it was still good, but the early 90s, every album sold less and less.
Hey lady, let me tell you why.
In 1987, Roger Troutman had his biggest hit as a solo artist with the smash funk ballad, I Wanna Be Your Man.
That was Roger. Roger loved the ladies.
Roger had a skit where he used to bring big women on the stage and sit on their lap and do all kind of stuff to them, right? And, you know, it would maybe get a little out of hand, and the man would be like infuriated. But he would never get infuriated with Roger. He'd come up and get, man, it ain't your fault, dog. You know what I mean? You know, she's, man, I don't know what she tripping on, but you, man, you my cat.
Wanna be your man, words can never say what I feel.
Roger performed off stage as well. Though he never married, he was supporting at least 12 children by nearly as many women.
Papa was a Rolling Stone. He gets flattered by all the attention.
I'm sure he took advantage of that in more ways than one.
He had a commanding presence, period. Like when he was around, people took notice. For whatever reason they took notice. I can't put it into words for you because I didn't understand it at the time, but when he stood on that stage and he talked to the people, they responded.
Zapp and Roger never stopped touring, but as the decade waned, hip-hop took over the pop charts and the money that came with it.
The late 80s, you know, was still good, but the early 90s, every album sold less and less. And being that was one of the primary sources, along with the housing.
The rough economy of the early 90s took its toll on Troutman Enterprises. After filing for bankruptcy in 1992, court files showed debts of nearly $4 million.
They were building from ground up, and they were building some, you know, really expensive homes. So before you made the money, you had to spend the money. You know, they weren't collecting as much rent.
But by the mid-90s, Zapp and Roger were getting rediscovered by a new generation of hip-hop icons who'd grown up on their music.
I got 4 demo tapes before I had a deal, and 3 of the songs had Roger beats on them because I knew that's what people would react to.
DJs wanted to play records with big drums. Roger and Zapp had that big drum sound, made it easy to mix. It also made it easy to sample.
Okay, yeah, this is EPMD, all right? This is a gold, and this was one of the first. It might have been, from the beginning, it might have been, which one was less? Like the second or maybe the third that
legal
ever,
sample.
Yeah, legal sample.
Imagine, you know, some of the stuff we recorded 30 plus years ago.
That's right.
And then kids come and, you know, they sample it. Oh, man, it's the greatest honor in the world. You know, they said they grew up on the music. Their dads listened to it. Their mothers listened to it. Someone was conceived from it. But
the hits kept coming. Notorious B.I.G. dipped into Roger's vault for Going Back to Cali, while Tupac's Keep Your Head Up sampled Roger's Be Alright. Then, in 1996, Dr. Dre brought Tupac and Roger together for the classic, California Love.
It was almost a no-brainer that he would come in and do his like more bounce kind of feel to a Dr. Dre beat. It just made sense.
California knows how to party. That's how you know. If you don't know Roger Troutman, that's how you know him.
California Love, that's basically what Roger's music was about, because his music was respected and loved in the California community more than anybody. You got the Hispanics, the blacks, the whites, you got everybody that just attracted to that.
Now let me welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West, a state that's untouchable like Elliot Ness. The track hits your ear.
Released on Tupac's double album, All Eyes on Me, California Love sold over 2 million copies and was nominated for a Grammy.
It was relevant for Dre and Roger to get together because it's passing the baton on. It's Roger taking it as far as he can, giving it to Dre, and letting Dre take it as far as he can.
I even heard Dr. Dre say personally that Roger Troutman was the single most creative man he had ever met.
So then here comes everybody saying, hey man, will you play voice box on my track? Roger got to the point, man, where he was never in Dayton, he wasn't even at the show. He just rolling around with a suitcase, picking up cheese everywhere.
Like when he showed up, it's like a preacher showed up. You understand me? So it's like, you know, you get on your best behavior when somebody of that magnitude shows up.
I say, Roger, so how much would it be to do this? He said, oh, I ain't number 25,000. I was like, I wanted to laugh and say, like, 25, I got that, you know what I'm saying? Baby, 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 shaking mama, shaking mama, shaking mama,
It seemed like Zapp and Roger were leading a charmed life. Nothing would prove further from the truth.
Suicide is something you can't tell what's in a person's mind.
There are only 3 beings that know what happened that day. And that's Roger, and that's Larry, and that's God.
The success of California Love made Roger Troutman a man in demand. He traveled the country to sing and record with rap and hip-hop stars.
Why you messing up my session, woman? You know I'm over here busy. You always talking about money. We ain't got no damn money. What's the matter with you?
I like to see him busy because he was most happiest when he was busy. The more jokes he would tell, the more he would laugh, the more he would make you laugh.
But back in Ohio, Larry was struggling to save the family businesses, and the pressures were taking a toll.
I did notice a little change in my dad. I just really saw him worried. I've never seen him like that. And, but due to the person that he was, you just felt that, oh, well, you know, he'll brush it off his shoulder and keep on moving.
He said, what if I have $2 million? And I said, then you're rich. And he said, what if I owe $4 million?
Imagine payroll and keeping the lights on and paying everybody's monthly bills and child support and yada, yada, yada. That's a lot of heaviness to go to bed with every night, you know, and if I slip and don't pay this, and this person not gonna have a place to lay their head.
You know, he's gaining all this weight and his whole appearance is changing, and I know now he was just defeated.
For 2 decades, Roger and Larry were a team, one and inseparable. But now Roger wanted a change.
Roger was wanting to do some things a little more independently, you know, as an artist, but he wasn't going to break up with his brother or break up with the company or the organization. There were just some things as an artist that he wanted to do.
You go out and you say, hear ye, come watch my brother. Listen to him, you gotta hear this. And you do it for 30 years. And you're not doing it the way he wants you to do it because he just realized he could do this without you. Probably not gonna be real happy with that news.
I remember the night before my father passed, I remember hugging my dad and telling him goodbye. And I remember it being a real weird hug. He was holding me tight, but I really couldn't feel him. And I knew something was strange, but I didn't know what.
Whatever tensions existed between Roger and Larry Troutman came to a head on the morning of April 25th, 1999.
I'll never forget that day. It's like, what were you doing when 9/11 hit? You know exactly where you were. I was at home in the bed, and I got a phone call to come to the hospital that your brother is hurt.
The phone rang. I pushed an answer, and it was Shirley Murdoch on the other end. She said, Roger has been shot. I said, what?
Accident, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. It was an accident.
My brother Rufus, he finally called me, and then he asked me, was I sitting down? I said, well, yeah, I can be. And so he told me what happened. He said, well, Roger and Larry are dead. It's like that.
Police found Roger Troutman in an alley behind his recording studio, bleeding to death from 4 gunshot wounds. A few blocks away, Larry Troutman's car had slammed into a tree after he shot himself in the head with a bullet from the same gun.
My best friend, my hero, my best friend, my hero, my 2 brothers. Oh my God, I was done, man. I was done. I was done. I was done. It's done.
As the news spread, family and friends struggled to come to terms with the tragedy that was beyond understanding.
Never in a million years would any of us have. I never saw it coming.
The person who did it felt so guilty, he only lived 4 minutes afterward. He said, hey, wait a minute. I don't deserve to live either.
When they found Larry, there were tears coming down, just streaming down his face.
We went to the morgue, and my little sisters were laying on Uncle Roger's body, which was nothing but a sheet. And they were just laying on him, apologizing and crying. That they were sorry that my dad did that. And I just picked them up, and I hugged them, and I held them, and I told them,
we didn't do this.
I'm going to the studio, they say, your dad's dead. And then when they told me who it was, I was like, man, Dad, I'm changing my name. I don't want to be that dude.
We were victims too. As they lost their father, we lost our father.
People start taking it out on different people. You know, it's a natural thing to do.
I felt guilty because I felt maybe I didn't hug enough. Maybe I could have said something that would have brought about a dialect as to how he's feeling. And I just really had to seek counsel to understand that this situation was not my fault.
You give yourself this importance that if I'd only been there, then I could have.
You can speculate and you can lie and you can fool yourself and make somebody think that you know, but you don't really know.
Just kept on believing in the Lord. Just kept telling the Lord, look, you know, please be my rock right now. Please be my rock.
Roger and Larry Troutman were laid to rest in a joint funeral in Monroe, Ohio. Thousands of fans, friends, and family packed the church for the service.
He was a genius. He really was. And all of us, the sparkle in our eye.
Hey, man, if I could have been there, man, I would have took the bullet for you, man. I did not want my brother to hurt, man. I didn't want my brother to hurt, man. Listen. What I thought was, it's over. To try to live life and try to go on. Hey, man.
You know, I didn't want to function, man. I just wanted to just stay in limbo. I wanted to, you know, for as long as I could. I guess forever. You know, I didn't want to face anything. I didn't want to face any reality, but the reality, the coldness of the world is what woke us up.
The tragic deaths of Larry and Roger Troutman in April of 1999 left their brothers at a crossroads.
Myself, personally, I didn't ever want to play again. I never wanted to play again, never, ever.
You know, you sitting there devastated. You started to think about what you can do with your future.
We were at my sister's, my mom told me, she said, look, go get your brother and you go out there and get that band and start playing. That's what you're gonna do. So you've been playing as long as Roger has. You get out there and you go play. So, hey, Mama, I can't. She said, well, yes, you can. Oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Once Terry and Lester vowed to keep Zapp alive, the rest of the band closed ranks.
Go do it one time, another time. Oh, I love you, Black. For the record, I'm going to close the hat.
We cried together, and we laughed together, and we traveled together, we did all that together, and not to stay together until we can see what was going to be would have been a tragedy.
And let us do things that would glorify you and honor Roger's memory, our Father. In the name of Jesus, we all say amen.
Amen. Okay. We're going to replace Roger. We're going to do what we need to do to keep this group together and keep that legend alive and go to work.
1, 2, you know what to do, come on.
Roger really prepared. Instead of having one front man, he had 6 front men. So with him not being there, basically all we had to do was kind of divide his parts up.
He always said, look here, you can have the front of the stage, you can have the microphone, You can front the band. You can do anything you want to. Just don't bore my fans.
Roger Troutman's influence on pop music is more prevalent than ever. Hip-hop stars from T-Pain to Kanye West to DJ Quick have all embraced the talk box.
There are people to me that imitate his style but don't really know where it came from. Like it came from this man being an eccentric genius.
But it just seemed like he had just finally got his notarization for what he could have became. Not being an unsung hero, but being the one that you know. But he did a great deed of great music. He inspired a lot of people, and his legacy definitely is gonna live on.
That legacy is also carried on by a new generation of Troutmans.
With the guitar, I picked it up and noticed myself playing exactly the same way he was, with the same finger movements, just obviously not on that level. I was like, well, maybe there's something going on here that I don't even know about.
His kids, his brothers, his sister, his nephews, his nieces, his friends, his family, we are his legacy.
Everybody knows there's a lot of Troutmans, and they don't know all of them. We don't even know, really. There's so many of them, but the legacy is brotherhood, togetherness, family. And that's enough to get a person through these hard times and in this world, if they have those things.
As for Zapp, the music never dies, and the show goes on.
The way you honor the people that you love is you do the things that they love. You allow their legacy to live in you.
I pray every night for Roger just to know that we're doing this music and doing this show just for him.
It's just part of me, man. Both of my brothers are part of me. I can't, that's almost like my skin. It's there, man. It's not leaving.
Before we go any further, we want to acknowledge one person, y'all. Yeah, he's my older brother, the gentleman who started this crew. Y'all know who I'm talking about? And if you miss him like we miss him, and if you love him like we love him, Anaheim, we want you to give it up for Roger!